So as we talk about this public announcement from the FMCSA, people say like, look, this is already a law. This is already a rule. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change. But this is the big change they're talking about in this newsroom report from the FMCSA. In 2016, when they said that, hey, you could get a fine for not speaking English, but you can't get put out of service. Well, the CVSA, the ones that do all the blitz and inspections on truck drivers, will actually rescind that rule and put it as part of their putting out of service if you don't speak enough English sufficiently. So this is huge. This is not just them saying, hey, we're going to enforce it some more. This is them rescinding a rule that stopped the CVSA and DOT inspectors from putting drivers out of service for not being English sufficient. They're taking that out and they're adding in that if you are English sufficient, you can get put out of service for it. It is a put out of service offense. What's going on, Mudtruckers? Welcome, Mudtruck News. Emails at mudtrucknews@gmail.com. I've been reading through the comments about what President Trump just recently signed in about all truck drivers having to speak English proficiently. And some of the comments, they're saying, why is he doing this? Is he picking on certain ethnicities? And they actually put this in their FMCSA news report. I'll share a link for you. And they bring up two specific accidents that they say argue why a truck driver needs to understand English enough. First one was in 2019, where a truck driver went through multiple signs that said slow down and steep downgrade and couldn't read the signs. And because of that, went 100 miles per hour down the steep grade, crashed, and killed a lot of people. Second was an accident that happened in January of this year, where a truck driver gets in a crash, and then after, law enforcement was trying to investigate and talk to the truck driver, and the truck driver needed an interpreter because they couldn't understand what was even going on. And this is the problem. It's about public safety, right? One more thing. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy even brings up that they're going to be looking at non-domicile CDLs as well and make sure that the person that is driving the truck should be driving the truck, and they're going to look at that more tougher. So basically, a non-domicile CDL is a CDL that's given to someone that is not an American citizen, right? And so, I'm sure the American Truckers United guys are extremely happy, Shannon and Harvey, about this because they're pushing hard. IDA jumped on this, started pushing hard. We've been talking about this and pushing hard. So the time has come for public safety, right? For the drivers that do not have time to read this public news report from the FMCSA, I'm here. I'm going to read it for you because I do not want you to get into an accident yourself. So you can listen to my voice, as beautiful as it is, and just listen and be safe out there. But this is something that's letting us know that the administration is starting to listen to truck drivers and the situations and challenges that we have. Now, my truckers, either you agree or disagree, we should agree on public safety. All right, mother truckers, for the ones driving right now, I'll do my best to read this for you guys. So this was FMCSA public news that affects all the truck drivers out there. Trump's Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy, truck driver who wants to share our roads must share our language. DOT takes steps to rescind a dangerous Obama-era policy, will issue new guidance enforcing English language proficiency in support of America's truck drivers. Washington, D.C. today, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy announced steps to rescind a dangerous Obama-era policy that dismissed English language proficiency requirements for commercial motor vehicles, CMV drivers. This action prioritizes safety on America's roadways in line with President Trump's executive order signed today. So I will definitely put out the executive order link so that you guys can read it. At the direction of Secretary Duffy, Department of Transportation's Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, will take immediate action to execute the President's EO and strengthen English language enforcement. Quote unquote, federal law is clear. A driver who cannot sufficiently read or speak English, our nation language, and understand road signs is unqualified to drive a commercial motor vehicle in America. This common sense standard should have never been abandoned, said U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy. This department will always put America's truck drivers first. So when they say abandoned, what they mean by that is in 2016, a memo came out that basically, DOT officers can give a truck driver that didn't speak English a fine, but would not put them out of service. And a second part to that is they would give them opportunity to use apps, interpreters, and things like that, phone a friend to basically talk to a DOT officer or law enforcement. And so they're taking pretty much all of that away. We know that it was already a law, but now it seems like they're going to be enforcing really hard, right? It says, these actions followed the signing of President Trump's enforcing common sense rules of the road for America's truck drivers. As part of the executive order, the Department of Transportation will also review non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses, CDLs, to identify any unusual patterns or other suspicious irregularities. So basically, Shannon and Harvey fighting hard for America's Truckers United, they said about non-domiciled, right? That means that you have a CDL, but you're not an American citizen. They're going to look deeper into these non-domiciled CDLs. For the background, FMCSA has documented cases where drivers' inability to read our signs and speak our language may have contributed to a series of fatal accidents. In 2019, a semi-truck driver driving down a crowded highway at almost 100 miles per hour blew past several signs that warned of steep grades and dangerous curves. The driver ultimately hit multiple vehicles in a fatal crash, killing 4 and injuring others. In January this year, a fatal collision in West Virginia involved a driver fleeing another accident who required an interpreter for the post-crash investigation. So, federal motor carrier safety regulations provide that a driver unable to sufficiently read or speak English or understand highway traffic signs and signals is not qualified to operate a commercial motor vehicle. However, in 2016, the Obama administration directed inspectors to not place CMV drivers out of service for violations of the ELP requirements. The failure to adequately enforce driver qualification standards poses serious safety concerns and increases the likelihood of a crash. Acting on President's executive order, the Secretary has directed FMCSA to rescind the 2016 policy guidance that diminished ELP enforcement. FMCSA will also issue new guidance to ensure necessary enforcement of ELP standards as prescribed by regulation in 49 CFR 391.11. The department values its long-standing relationship with the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance and calls on them to update out-of-service criteria to include violations of ELP standards. Once incorporated, the FMCSA's policy will provide uniform enforcement by federal and state inspectors. This action underscores the Department of Transportation's unwavering commitment to safety. So there you guys go. That's the information. I'll put the link for you guys to read it yourself, but they're going to go in hard and it's happening soon.